Awesome. I love this conversation about who or what is an artist. I think that starting a conversation there and just on any classroom anywhere in the world is so interesting, because often what I find that my college students say, what children will say, is they could point to a famous artist, they could point to a time they went to an art museum, they could point to a time they went to a ballet, and maybe say that's art. Young children will often say, well, I'm an artist, I like to make art. But what happens is Picasso says every child's an artist, but the problem is staying an artist when you grow up. And so it seems like over time we start overthinking it, and we kind of create this binary of these people are artists, or this is real art, the rest of it kind of doesn't count in a way. And I think that it makes art feel unattainable to the teachers who are really teaching kids every single day. So I know I mentioned this kind of in my intro, but I feel very passionate that teachers can really understand that they can make art with their kids, that they do not need to be the best or sell art or be professional, but just because they are a person who embodies some of these qualities that we talked about, they can impact or impart that on their students in their classroom. The things that we just talked about, I thought were so good in terms of, aren't these qualities we want all kids to really embody and think about, that they are creators, that they practice. I loved that they are reflective, that even as babies, even when they grow really old and they're really elderly, that across the span of their life, they can be an artist, that they can make choices, that art is about vulnerability. I don't remember who said all these, I just wrote them down. That art is about understanding the world better. It's about process. It's about our worldview. And so right there, it's like that's what we want kids to know and think about. And that's where art comes in every single day into our reading, our writing, our math time, our science, our social studies time. And so I think about arts integration being something that, yes, it's wonderful if we have a partnering artist or we have a professional artist who can come in and help us, but we really need to leverage the playing field and look at ways where teachers feel like they have access to making art and talking about art every single day. Not once in a while, not occasionally when it fits what they're thinking about. No, we could do a little art here. I believe that art is central to literacy, math, and content area experiences. So that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. And of course, I think this is super casual. So please just raise a hand and we can pause and talk about it. I would love to just pause and have a little conversations as we go along. When I was with you all last May, I did talk a little bit about the school that I work at, but because not all of us were there, I thought I would loop back and do a quick overview for those of us who weren't on the call last May. So we are a lab school at Stevens College. College students are in the classroom learning about how children learn best. We are always trying to incorporate current research and a wide variety of curriculum to meet the needs of individual kids. We have about 40 students in our elementary program and 3 full-time master level teachers. We have a wonderful student-teacher ratio, so that enables us to do a lot of things and try a lot of things, which is really fun. Let's see. Our philosophy of teaching and learning here at the Children's School is a constructivist philosophy. We believe knowledge is constructed, not passively absorbed. So right there, many teachers would say, that's what I believe too. Okay, well then we need to make art. We need to be creating and making and building and constructing as a way to show our learning. Learning is active and hands-on, happens best in community, and is personal. We can all think about how art would connect to those things as well. Children are natural learners. Our passion is to help kids develop a passion to be lifelong learners who ask big questions, try out new ideas, and believe in their own inherent worth in themselves and other people. Because we're arts integrated school, we celebrate learning through visual, performance, literary arts. We're always looking for new ways to define art. Whether it's digital, whether it's moving our bodies, whether it's making a song, we try to incorporate all of that. We've got a multi-age environment here. So our kindergarten through 5th grade children all work together. We have older students partnering with the younger students. There's a real community feel. It really has like a family atmosphere, which is really fun. So we'll talk about a few different things today. My hope is just that you can have a little glimpse into what we do at our school, and then maybe think about how that might connect to whatever sphere you're working in. But what I'm really thinking about is everyday teachers, everyday classrooms, and how we can help those teachers incorporate art. So in May, we looked at art as a formative assessment tool. Many teachers are thinking about how do we assess, and we talked about how to do that. Today, we're going to talk about integrating art and literacy experiences, and then I'll talk about a few meaningful art installations we did here at the children's school. Last time, we talked about sketchnoting as a method to show our thinking, that we can create pictures, we can create word bubbles and thought bubbles, and organize our words and our ideas in a visual way to express what we're thinking. So if you're not familiar with that process, I'm really happy to share more later. We talked about that last May, but I think a great place to start for today is just, if you've got a piece of paper in front of you, maybe you want to write down a few of those thoughts of who is an artist. We just talked about that. And maybe think about some visual that might go with that. How would you visually show a concept like that art is vulnerable? Like, how might that look on your paper? So as we kind of talk today, I encourage you to sketch note, maybe draw some pictures, show your thinking in a visual way, and we'll have some time to share at the end. All right, so moving into literacy experiences, we started with this last time and kind of ran out of time. So we're going to slow down and take a look at Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline Woodson is an amazing children's book author and has partnered with many different illustrators. And so we talked a little bit about last time, and I want to touch on this again today. We set up an art gallery in our classroom, and this is something we do a lot. Often we think about art as we've got to be making and creating, but another thing that artists do is we study other art. We notice it, we talk about it, we think about it. And so just to have a short conversation here, what are some other things that you might do when you go to an art gallery?
You might sketch pictures of what you see before you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
You look at art.
Yeah, just take it in.
And you think.
Mm-hmm. Does make you think.
I often try to imagine what the curator was thinking or imagining when they were selecting groups of pieces of art to display in a certain manner.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And there are more things, but I think these are things that artists do. We kind of think about, what do we do when we go to an art gallery? What happens when we're at a ballet? What goes on in our body and our brain? And what are the activities that we might participate in when we do those things? So even if we can't go to a real beautiful art museum for a field trip, we can still create something similar in a classroom and have that experience of studying and noticing art. So yes, all the things you mentioned, we sketch, we notice, we think, we just feast our eyes. A lot of times we talk, we're maybe with somebody and we have a conversation. We might be reflective and quiet. We might have an emotional experience. We might see a painting that makes us cry or see something that makes us laugh. That is what art has the power to do. And we want our students to be able to experience that. So a way that I love to highlight that teachers can incorporate art and talk into literacy experience is to set up and curate an art gallery. It could be any kind of art. It could be the students' art. It could be art from picture books. It could be works of art. whatever you're studying, you can create that kind of an experience for your students. We have these tables that I love, they kind of pop up. And so we actually set them around in a circle and it feels like you're walking into a gallery. Sometimes we dim the lights or put on music and make it real fancy. So today we'll kind of mimic this experience. We're going to walk through an art gallery here on our Zoom call and talk about what we notice in the words, illustrations, and themes. Our first pass through the gallery will just be to have a conversation. And then we will go through it again and write and sketch note our noticings. Why we're doing this is because in a literacy classroom, we really want students to be able to talk about their thinking and then do that pencil to paper and do some writing and extend their thinking with their writing. So let's take a look. Gallery 1. These are all different book covers. These are all books written by Jacqueline Woodson. She partnered with some different illustrators. Some of them are the same on a couple of the books. But all of her books are about similar kinds of ideas. So I thought, just let's unmute. We're a small group today. What kinds of themes do you notice? As an artist, what is your eye drawn to? What feelings do you have? What comes up for you as you feast your eyes on Gallery 1?
Well, she really focuses on young girls, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So the different, all different like paths that young girls have.
Mm-hmm.
From the first day of school, it looks like the day you begin.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of light. It all looks very much like there's lots of hope in there. So
there's also a very warm palette. There's so much yellow and gold and orange and kind of an almond color, and that warmth really draws you into the pictures.
Yeah.
I see hair. I notice hair.
And it seems very individualized, like it's really targeted on the little girl and her feelings as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And not having read the books, but experiencing just the visual images that are the covers, many of the images are about a journey or embarking on going from the place where they are to something beyond.
Oh, love it. Oh, you all are good.
There's interaction going on. Whether it's personal with just one person, but there's interaction. You can tell she's thinking, she's contemplating, or some are with two people. There's connections, there's connecting going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're all African-American girls.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my little kindergartners today would have really appreciated one of these books.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I feel like we could keep going and going, but all of that talk is so valuable. I think about the things that my students notice and just talked about. This is something preschoolers can do. They could say, oh, I noticed there's two pictures that have ropes in them. She's on a rope swing and she's jumping rope. I noticed that there's light. There's kind of a candle in this one, and there's a reflection in this one. And that one looks like she's looking out the window. And so all of these things, this is kids being artists and noticing themes, noticing light, noticing color, noticing meaning. And even if you've never read the books, we have a feeling about what Jacqueline Woodson might write about, what she cares about, what her perspective is. Somebody said it's about hope. Those are amazing things for a teacher to be able to take anecdotal notes on what those students are noticing. And then we'll come back around and do some writing about it in a minute. But let's just continue walking. We're at our gallery. These are pages from a few of these books. Again, let's just pause and notice what are some maybe themes or colors or ideas now that we're getting into the books.
Well, now you can really see the really loving interactions between the adults and children in every single double page spread.
Mhm.
It's nurturing, it's caring,
Mm.
loving.
And it's female centric.
Yeah.
And there are women caring for girls.
Mhm. Right. Mothers and daughters. Yep.
Yeah, role model.
There's a lot of joy in these pages.
Mhm. Yep. And I will never forget one of my little first graders. They were like, these are just kind of everyday pictures. She was like trying to talk about how it's just every day. And I was like, well, what do you mean, Vivian? And she said, well, it's just what moms do with their kids. They feed them, they hold them, they hug them. It's just kind of what happens. And I just thought that was so great. These aren't monumental things. It's a mom feeding a baby. It's a mom tossing a baby. It's a mom hugging her daughter. These images feel real to kids. And I think somebody mentioned warm and nurturing. Those feelings can come up and it can really tap into an emotional response for kids. It can also tap into an emotional response for kids who might not feel like they have this. Or they long for this. Sometimes it brings up things that feel broken or sad. But again, a literacy art experience, this is tapping into a whole child and their whole life. The art isn't just the pictures. It isn't just, what is this book about? What is the author saying? It's just letting the picture speak before we even read the books. We don't even have to read them to have this conversation. Let's look at our last gallery here. What do we notice here?
Play and interactions.
Yeah. And there's more diversity. We're now seeing other kinds of children other than just brown children.
Mhm.
And bigger movement.
Mhm.
All kinds of jump rope.
Yes.
Lots of jump rope.
Mhm. And I love this because when we talked about it and with the kids, some of them are like, oh, I know how to jump rope and some don't. And it brought up this conversation in the top left one where it says, Miss Lucy had a baby. She named him Tiny Tim. We started talking about jump rope rhymes and it brought up this whole conversation about these songs and these rhymes. And we started learning to jump rope on the playground because a lot of kids didn't know what jump rope rhymes were, which was really fun. So there are a lot of extensions that can happen from these pictures. So I used a sheet kind of like this. This was one I made for older kids, but if you have a sketch note paper in front of you and want to divide it into 4 quadrants, we're going to go back through the gallery again. And this time you get to draw some pictures or sketch notes and things that stand out for you. You might do some writing. Maybe those words come up for you in a different way. Maybe it reminds you of somebody or something. Maybe just you hear color words or songs. So again, we'll go through number 1 is book covers. Number 2 is mothers. Number 3 was about ropes or play. And then if we have time, we'll circle a noticing and take some more time to do some writing or drawing about it. So this time I'll just put a timer on. We'll spend 1 quiet minute in each gallery, just reflecting. Okay, we'll move into our next gallery and do some more writing and sketching. Okay, and we'll move into our last gallery, last minute to sketch or write. Okay, and I'll bring us all back together and stop sharing just for a moment. I'm wondering if you could just maybe circle the best thing that you wrote or the best sketch that you made, and if you'd be willing to share that with our group. I know normally we would do this longer, we would have much more time for writing and reflecting and all of that, but for our purposes, we'll get the idea. Anybody want to share out? Oh, I like it, Tom.
Here's my little
Wow.
drawing. I'm the bravest.
Look how brave you are. I love that.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, I like that, Janelle. Love that.
I don't
Always
know
goes
how
back
to-
to
Mine is
words.
totally verbal.
Oh, look at all that
Always
writing
back
you
to
did,
words.
Cecile. I love that.
One thing I noticed on the ropes page was how they were building community and culture through play.
Yes,
And it was so joyful and so natural.
love that. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I just feel that you could see this could go many different directions. You could have students doing their own maybe photography around these themes. They could take pictures at home with their own mothers or family members. They could do their own art around these ideas or concepts. So but this is embedded in an ELA activity. So we can really see that the students are having this exposure to books, they're doing writing, and that art is a central piece of it. So I love this quote from Don Graves, why the talking is so important. The amount of language a child must produce before, during, and after a written event is paramount. Beginning writers show through voice alone that writing is more of a speech event than a writing event. And this is why we are talking. We go to an art gallery and we do look and we sketch, but we want to talk. Art is communal. We want to have a conversation about what we're writing and share what we're seeing. I'm going to give a couple of examples. This sheet is a little different than the one we did, but this is a student who was in kindergarten at the time. And Max said a few different things through the activity. And so before we were writing, and he looked at the art, he said, "I like all the pictures of babies." And then while he was writing, he was kind of talking and he said, moms like to feed babies. My mom feeds my baby sister like that. And he was pointing to the one with the mom feeding the baby. And then you can see in his picture there of the mothers, his mothers is in that bottom right quadrant. And he said, I drew the mommies feeding babies in 2 boxes. Oh yeah, he's got them in 2 boxes to show the babies need to eat, but they don't eat pie in real life. So up there in the book cover page, he's got baby pecan pie. And in that book, the mom is eating pecan pie. So that's why he drew that. But you can see he's really thinking about the book. He's thinking about his own life. He's making meaning with his words and with his illustrations. This is a literacy-rich activity that is anchored in art. Here's an example of an older student. This is a 5th grader, and we certainly can't read all of the things that she wrote. But before writing, she said, I like the windows gallery best. That was one I didn't share today because I do that. I look out the window too when I need to think. And then during writing, she said, do you see how they all have cold weather outside? She noticed that in the picture. And then after she was writing, she extended and wrote her own poem, which I have her permission to share. She said, one girl looking out the window, the snow feels cold. One girl sees her mother in her mind. The flakes fall wet. One girl cries and feels so alone. The snow falls fast. One girl hugs her mother close. Her breath melts the ice on the window pane. And I think that is art. Sophie is an artist. And this is a student who she does a lot of careful writing. She writes book reports and nonfiction writing, but this really took some emotion out of her, which is beautiful to see. So I think this talk during the writing with the art is something I talk about as important with teachers and our student teachers, that we want kids to be thinking about, what are you thinking? What are you trying to do? What do you hope? And then during the writing event, that they're seeing, showing, and making connections to an idea. And then after the writing event, they're reflecting, extending, unpacking, and sharing. And I think this brings me back to my question of who is an artist? What is an artist? These are all things that artists do. We want to see, we want to show, we want to make connections, we want to reflect, we want to extend, we want to unpack an idea, we want to share our work. Before we move on, I know we're almost done here. I just want to stop for a moment. Any takeaways from that segment of doing an art gallery in the classroom?
You could see there was lots of engagement on your part and the part of the children.
Yeah, they liked it.
And there was a lot of buy-in.
Yeah, there was a lot of buy-in. I think they felt like it was something special. Like I had curated a gallery. I was excited to show them something, so they were pretty amped about that.
You could tell they were into the documentation. You know, and as a follow-up, probably they would come up and really take a look at your display board or whatever you use, and part of the documentation is part of the assessment, and talking about how did you do this? What's the title of the book?
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah, there was all of this like extending and thinking, and of course then we were reading the books and we were noticing more, and it got them so into not just reading the story, reading the illustrations, reading the feelings in the illustrations, reading the visual art, which is just so important. Okay, well, for time, let's skip along just a little bit more. I got a couple more things I want to show you. Here's a slightly different activity. We are learning about Leonardo da Vinci in kind of a history space. And of course, you know, if you're doing da Vinci, you have to talk about the Mona Lisa. And we were reading this book, and all the kids wanted to know, who is she? Who is she? And so, of course, we had to find out about her. This book imagines the Mona Lisa came to life and lived in New York. It's an amazing book if you haven't read it. It's really fun and colorful and exciting. But then we just started imagining about her. I didn't tell them who she was or anything, because there is a lot of mystery around this iconic photo or art. And so we started talking about what we imagined about her. And so we had a literacy response to reading this text. Instead of write what you think, we did an art showcase of the Mona Lisa and her character. So I just want to show you, this is a fun idea. Some students decided to draw it, but I printed out lots of color photos of the Mona Lisa, and the students could cut out her face if they felt like that was too hard, but then they imagined the rest of her character and maybe what did she do on the weekends, or what else did she wear, and then they would tell about it. It was hilarious and really fun. So here are a few examples they came up with. My favorite is the green monster with the top hat. We had queens, we had all kinds of different stories and ideas. And then the older students, they made a board for my husband, actually, Mr. LaMear. Can you guess who created each Mona Lisa? They thought he would be able to tell which one did it. He also teaches here at the school based on their personality. And he did pretty well. You could kind of tell something about the student in the art that they created around the Mona Lisa. They all gave them new titles. And just had a great time with this. So again, it's a literacy extension. It's not just writing, it's creating, talking, and imagining, which really gets us into a book and a learning experience.
What
So
grade? What grade level?
Okay, this is kindergarten through 5th grade. So here, these are some of this is a 5th grader on the left. These are kindergarten and 1st grade. And then this was a 4th and 5th grade class. So this is a K-5 experience. And again, I would say to any teacher, you could do this. You could cut out or print photos of anything and have the students cut out the part they want to keep and then add around it. I think this is a really user-friendly idea. And then last but not least, I know we're running out of time, but I did want to share a few art installations we've done at our school. We moved into a new building. And so the students helped think of some creative ways to make art that we would keep up in our classroom. This was a 5th grade group of girls on the left. They saw this idea on Pinterest, but they came up with it themselves. They talked about how they would do it, how they would use the blue tape and make lines, and they measured. It became very mathematical for them. They had to trial and error it on paper before we got the wooden blocks. And then these 5th grade girls created that beautiful, colorful art collage on the left, and it will be in our school forever.
And then, excuse me, I'm sorry, what is the dimension of those on the left?
I would say they are pretty small. I would say they're maybe, I would say maybe like 6 inches by 6 inches, each of the wood squares. But I think that you could do it bigger. You could do one for every kid in the school. We may expand and add on to it. It was just such a hit and so beautiful. We get to talk a lot about color theory and theme and what they were trying to do. It turned out really well. And then over here on the right, these are photographs of some history in our school. Another student found an idea. We were looking at ideas online, which is kind of what a lot of people do to get inspired. And they saw kind of a black and white display. And so we went to the archives at Stevens College and got old photographs and printed them in black and white. And they figured out how to design them going up the staircase. So again, this was a student-led project. And I think they did a great job measuring and thinking about how to make something look really fancy. I'm sure you all have seen the melted crayon art idea. This one was another huge hit. Both of these projects were designed by college students. Their goal was to use old materials in the school and make it into something new. So this was using the broken crayons and they were hot glued on, melted with a hairdryer. And they did that with a small group of children. And then the blue blocks, these were old blocks in our preschool program that didn't really match any other set. And we were gonna get rid of them. And she had the idea to paint them all one color. And so all the students painted them one color, and then they used sticky Velcro and stuck it up in a hallway. So now it's an art install. A couple more, and then we'll wrap up. Here we talked about the color wheel and the colors that kind of go together. We have a big window, and this was all made by students. These are our youngest students, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. They wrapped up these wooden circles with different colored yarn. And we talked about kind of the order the colors go in, or ombre effect or fading, and organize them from light to dark. So we have a kind of blue-green one, we have an orange one. And then they decided, this was another fun idea, to take tree branches. We had a big tree that fell down outside. And so they wanted to do something with the tree branches. So we took more of that yarn and just wrapped up the tree branches. And then I found some pom-poms to kind of match, and we glued those on and hung them up. So that was a really fun project. And now we can hang other art off the branches, which is really fun. Our preschool students are currently, I don't have the finished project to share with you, but they are doing some dancing to music and putting their feet in paint, and they're each making their own dancing canvas, which we're going to hang up in our preschool hallway. And then our all K to fifth graders, they made a hand here to our good morning song. Says, baby, it's a brand new day. Ain't no clouds hanging over me. So we made a sun. They each took a hand and decorated it with colors, and some of them have words about themselves, and that'll hang up in our hallway all year as well. So sorry, I know it's a lot. Just want to wrap up because we're at 5 o'clock. I just want to kind of end by going back to what I was saying before, that really all of these things that they can be really exciting, meaningful, beautiful, are attainable by classroom teachers. And so these are things that we can do to really leverage. I mean, this is yarn, this is photocopying a few pages out of a book and taping it up around your room. This is nothing fancy that I shared with you today. And I want teachers to feel that they have access to making art and thinking of themselves as artists in their classroom. So that's all I got. Wrap it up. It's 5:01. I did pretty good.
You did great,
You did
Rachel.
great.
Are there any questions before we bring Rachel's segment to a close?
It's a cool school.
Come visit. Phyllis came to visit. Anyone's welcome anytime. So if you're ever driving through Columbia,
I used to go visit there all the time, but I don't remember you. I think you've got all new people.
I think we do have all new people. Well, come by again. I'd love to show you around our new space, Tom.
These were some images that I snapped while I was there of students at work, and some of the hands-on aspects of a lot of their work with students.
It's a fun place. I didn't know you took all those, Phyllis. Those are great.
I did. Okay, guys, I placed in the chat the links that you can access the Kansas-Missouri Partnership professional learning pieces. I'll go ahead and I did go ahead and click on it when I was finding that link for you, and realized there's one coming up very soon, October the 8th. It's via Zoom, and it's part of the Synchronous Saturday Zoom sessions. It's an agreement they've made with Focus 5 this year, and they do have a limited number of free tickets available, but it's also very affordable if they're out of free tickets. I think $25 for those sessions. And then there are some free ones. So please visit that link that I just placed in the chat to learn more about what the Kansas-Missouri Partnership is offering. And as other pieces of information become in my awareness, I will be sure to pass them on to you. The other link I placed in the chat is an arts integration evaluation form. We'd love to have you respond to the first 2 or 3 questions on this evaluation form. And then after you answer those first 3 or 4 questions, there's a choice of whether you'll give us demographic information, and it's not necessary if you've done it within the last year. But if you would like to share your demographic information or have not done so, please feel free to provide that. If you need continuing ed certificates for your attendance here, please just make sure that I know that, and I will create that certificate for you. And I wanted you to be aware that the Alliance also has other professional learning communities, our Fine Arts Missouri Educators, and our Inclusion, Diversity, Equity in the Arts. And we have sessions coming up soon. The session dates you can find on this little thing that I'll place in the chat really quick, which is my September update. I'm going to have to make a new one for October because it's just around the corner. And as always, we are a 501c3 and we welcome your tax-deductible contributions at any time. And this little QR code does take you to the eval form if you prefer to capture it that way. I just want to say thank you for coming, and thank you especially to Rachel for preparing all that for us and sharing those words of wisdom. My takeaway is that arts integration is accessible. Even if your personal identity doesn't extend that you think of yourself as an artist. We hope to change that mind.
Right.
But even if it's not quite there yet for you, it's still possible. You can do it too.
Love that.
Are there any other questions or things to share for the good of the cause before we adjourn today? Well, I hope to see you next time, October 25th. We do not have a selected guest presenter just yet, but we are shopping. And if anyone who is on this call would like to be a presenter, we'd welcome you. But Cecile's going to be our presenter in November, along with Andrea Brandstetter, both of whom attended the virtual Kennedy Center training and have made a pact to try Tableau in their classroom for the first first couple months of the year, just to see what it was like. And so they're going to report back in on that in November. And so thanks for tuning in today, guys. Feel free to reach out at any time. I'll put my email in the chat just in case you lost it or need it again. It's director@moaae.org. Thanks for coming. And thanks again, Rachel, for being our
Thank you.
presenter.
Have a
Thank you.
great day, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.